Hello and welcome back to Dave's Deadlines at last. Hope you didn't go anywhere while I was gone doing the canals. Sorry to those of you who are expecting to see another bit of the Leicester one. I'll be exploring another part of the Great Central Railway route today. That began early in 2025. We pick up once again where we left off at the site of Ecclesfield East station on the former Blackburn Valley route between Sheffield, Victoria and Barnsley Exchange, which, like most other suburban stations on this line, closed in the 1950s. Unfortunately, the gates have been locked again since then, so I think we'll be moving on. As we make our way off across Lloydshire Lane, or Lloydshire Lane, whichever you prefer to call it, where there was still once a proper iron bridge deck when I originally visited. The Great Central main line here was actually severed from Barnsley in 1966, although the segment behind us from Sheffield up to about quarter of a mile in front earned itself a stay of execution. The reason for which is just a short couple of 100-metre stroll in front of us. The 23-hectare area atop a hillside just to our right, while now decorated by a number of dirty great sheds, was once a whole different world to look at. Thankfully. As most of you are probably already in the knowledge of, the coal industry to Yorkshire is more or less in line with what oil is to a wealthy Texan millionaire. And I've just stepped into the middle of what was once one of the county's countless sites, Smithywood colliery and coking plant. The colliery itself was sunk in the 1890s by the Sheffield-based industrial firm Newton and Chambers in order to extract coal and ironstone from the area, alongside which also producing gas, tarmac, oil, benzol and ammonia. Sensing the need to convert coal to coke close in proximity to the colliery, engineers Woodall and Duckham duly obliged, and the coking plant arrived in 1929. Closer to the railway we just walked up, but with it being a bit slippery down there, I will not risk the journey back again. And talking of which, we need to get back to walking that once more, don't we? Bye-bye to the collieries, and it's back onto the beaten track again. And you can't beat tracks like this, can you? That said, I did actually try myself once to. This charming looking old bridge beneath Cowley Hill that we're just coming up to is also how I came to figure out where the next part of the route onwards to Chapeltown from here led, when I first explored back in 1996 to 1997, and in not dissimilar conditions to today, I might add, although the ground beneath the bridge is somewhat more sociable for today's explorations. Back in those days when I was a 19-year-old ponytailed heavy metaler on a pedal bike, that was not quite the case. Going to take I'll look back at this beauty before I continue that tale. Strange to think that my first ever view of this bridge was up behind those railings. As we make our way further along, here's the rest of the story. I saw that things were not going to improve anytime soon on that score, so a few months later, some sunny afternoons in 1997, I sought to take matters into my own hand with a few substantially thick tree branches and the back of a size 12 Doc Martin heel. I managed to gouge my own path instead, starting from back where it came on from the colliery tip through to nearly where that bridge is, but unfortunately got to where a huge fallen tree laying across with a fearsome army of sting nettles solidly guarding it. It was a bit too much to get around even with gloves. I didn't dare to risk finding out the hard way what hid behind it. So I need to go look back with pride and say I managed to carve at least 30 metres of path. If I'd known that such trans were going to save me the job 15 years later on, who knows. Up here on the right at the moment, one or two bits of old railway fencing, watching down from up on high, and behind it the site of another former colliery tip, I believe, also sunk by Newton and Chambers, the same two chaps responsible for the Smithywood plant. Said two gentlemen were also the same party behind the creation of Thorncliffe Colliery and Ironworks, which comes about a mile in front on our left. Meanwhile, I'll just enjoy a stroll in the woods while waiting for the rain to make its final executive decision for the day. Do I ruin Dave's videos again or not? Bypassing the back entrance to Chapeltown Park now. We shortly find ourselves arriving at where nowadays houses sit across the embankment. Do not fret, however, fellow old railway lovers, for there's a far nicer looking house straight across the other side of this next road we're about to cross. We're right outside the front of Chapeltown Central Station, one of two passenger stops that this part of Sheffield once proudly boasted. The other, of course, being on the current Midland Railway route, which crosses beneath us somewhere close to this location. Chapeltown Central opened in 1854, originally under the name Chapeltown and Thorncliffe, on a line that was then single track. The current building we see through the trees here came up in 1875 to replace the original structure, along with the doubling of the line. The 1870s build is of the traditional MSLR double pavilion design, as you can see, with a twin gable and including the station master's house within, as well as a booking office and also waiting rooms for 3 different classes. It also included a goods loop behind the platform, which I'm walking along right now to get to the far end of the station. And a crafty peek through at the platform wall while we're at it. As you probably already understand, this station was central to the route, seeing trains between Sheffield, Victoria and Barnsley exchange until its complete closure exactly a century after the original platform began business. Oh, and by the way, boys and girls, the platforms and the buildings are not all that Chapeltown Central left behind, because just in front of us here is something else of a little bonus, or perhaps a big one. This astounding signal remnant stands proudly and presidingly at the immediate north end of the station. It is one of very few redundant semaphore signals surviving on a disused railway track bed anywhere in the UK. Also one that you can find on top of the former Holbeck Viaduct in Leeds, just outside the site of the former Leeds Central Station there. A lovely bit of ironwork down at the side, although it appears it was a bit larger at some stage. We also have initials on the side there. Oh look, there's also a little signal box for it as well. And likewise, that is missing a piece off the top. Well, at least that also once worked. Something I wish they would try and do more of around the house. Descending what is possibly part of the goods loop here, a continuation of into that Thorncliffe Ironworks branch. It goes downhill quite an incline, as to indicate so. I'm not sure it's a fallen tree or possibly a sleeper there. We'll be picking back up again on the Great Central Line very shortly, guys, don't worry. It just happens that sometimes diversions are necessary. Now, while we're passing, we quite conveniently have the Midland Line crossing beneath us right at this point. Very much active to this day, with 4 passenger trains either way per hour in its peak. The remaining Chapeltown station is just round the corner behind the various colours of trees. The route of the aforementioned Thorncliffe branch curved away north from the Midland route through those trees in the distance and ascends through that modern housing estate and arcs upwards a short distance in front of us to join onto the Great Central. Soon back to the line, and a fair bit of evidence as well. One last piece of bridge. And if you can see it in the trees along severed embankment. We'll be bearing left in the meantime, because there is a little bit more, only just meters ahead. We have not only the fascinating remains of an erstwhile footbridge support base over on our left here at this stage, and similar varieties of infrastructure on our right here as well, trying to secret themselves from me in vain. The former water tank support base sits right at our feet. Bearing in mind the size of this thing, it'd be quite fair to assume that there were some rather thirsty engines on this section of line. A little bit more on our right there, likely to be a signal. That metal mechanism is usually the main giveaway. It's similarly thirsty work climbing up some of these parts of the railway route as well. They appear deceptively level, but don't quote me on it, because some of them are anything but. But at least, if you're prepared to climb some of them, that thirst becomes pretty much quenched at the end. The embankment rose mightily from the left of our picture here, across where this bridge used to stand, and onward to the next station just ahead at Westwood. The coping stones appear admirably kept, if not a little green nowadays. Reaching the top of the hill, and you can see over there in the trees how high the embankment gets as we reach its level ourselves a short few meters ahead. And finally, at the top of this tortuous climb, ladies and gentlemen, we shall shortly be pulling into the site of Westwood Station. It's in there somewhere. Westwood was the final passenger station south of the border with Barnsley. It consisted of 2 staggered platforms, a level crossing and a booking office. Similarly to Chapeltown Central, it was also rebuilt from a single track line and station in the 1870s, and also had connections to the college both at Thorncliffe and nearby Tankersley. Westwood was an early closer, having collected its last ticket stub in 1940, with the only population close by being a couple of rows of workers' cottages. It could hardly amount to much of a surprise. Sadly, scarce remains of the station today, aside from a small part of the old level crossing. while the line continued onwards via Tankersley and another bridge just in front, I have to be continuing back in their direction for a train that actually still runs. So it leaves me to say thanks to all of you who hang on for the last 5 or 6 months. I don't usually leave it that long between Disused railway explorations. Our next will be continuing along the line through Burwell and on to Dovecliff. Till then, take care and safe travels. Cheerio. Oh, here we are. I found it. I knew it wouldn't take long. Back to the loft then. Oh, they're saying that wires out again for a while. I might just get away with it a second time.